and we're putting them in a formal structure. And we also guide them in terms of the entrepreneurial basis, in terms of how to run your own business. You might find others, they don't even have a registered company. We assist them to have these companies registered, to get them tax clearances, and we get them the accreditation that is required. If you take your vehicle for a service or for a panel beating, you would have to check if these people, the companies, RMI accredited, and also to ensure that they get continuous business. We get them to be part of the West Bank database, so that the government vehicles that needs to be serviced or to be repaired, they can go to these particular individuals. So that is a very low-hanging fruit, and as the AIDC, we're there to assist and guide as to how this can actually be done. And yes, we go into partnership with TIKZN in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Eastern Cape, ECDC, East London IDZ, and KUHA. Yeah. So those are the opportunities that are there. And you don't necessarily have to have even one in the province. Yeah. You can have in various areas.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ntatedi Tsheko, I gave you enough airtime. As we stand up to make our way off stage, Mr. Yobet, just in 2 seconds, your parting shot.
Yeah, I think the migration to zero emission vehicles, but also a zero emission economy, offers particular opportunities, and it is a localization of energy production and a democratization of energy production that can filter down to each community. You know, in Africa, there's still 500 million people without basic access to electricity, and I think we're at the cusp of a virtually free energy supply, permanent, and that's solar. And I think it's going to be amazing, and we're going to look back at this transition with wonder in 15 years.
Thank you so much. Round of applause for my incredible panel. Thank you so much.
And a round of applause for the facilitator as well. Sorry, I'm rushing everybody, because Nomasonto Ndlovu is looking at me like I'm a headmaster who's denying her a chance to go for a lunch break. Thank you very much. I'm sure questions were raised. We are challenged. We understand. I don't know about you, but I'm sick about hearing this potential. I'm sorry, I'm sick of it. I've had potential for the past 30 years. Even if I had been born in 1994, I would be a 30-year-old potential. It's not going to cut it. And when you hear about crime and gender-based violence, don't overlook economic deprivation or lack of opportunity. There are many social diseases out there that are caused by lack of opportunity for people who deserve them. And we, the elite, and everybody in here is the elite, are making decisions or not making decisions, are taking actions or not taking actions that could make a massive difference. We are not exerting ourselves. We are not mindful. We are present, but we are not there. We hold the future of so many people in our hands with the titles and positions that we hold. But because we don't exert ourselves, and because we are not under the pressure that the masses are under, we lose the opportunity to make a lasting impact. So we are becoming these big trees, but we are leaving many small axes at the bottom. And as a result, we are spending an increasing percentage of our income to protect ourselves from the small axes. 30 years ago, many houses that didn't have perimeter fences now have perimeter fences and burglar proofing and pit bulls and guns And insurance is costing them a whole lot more to protect themselves against fellow South Africans. So much so that even that crime has become an international industry. There are people who are hired from across the border to perform those tasks. And every day we are building higher walls and higher walls. And I keep wondering, do we really think we can keep out danger by building higher walls and hiring security officers that we underpay to guard us while we sleep? Nomasonto Ndlovu is the Chief Executive Officer of Beacon Africa Tourism, and she's going to do the last panel, which I hope will take us to just after 4:30. And if you look at your program, we were supposed to finish at 4, which means I've underperformed by 30 minutes, more or less. Come on, Mayor, that's worthy of a bonus. My political principles took 2 hours off me in the morning. So not bad. Service delivery from this side, Mayor. You know, it's a lot of service delivery here. Don't undermine the suit. Okay, while they're loading, are they mic'd? Talking about a suit, my mother says, pardon? Yeah, now this is where you pay me extra. But because you're not paying me, you give me a tip now. I don't love the pulpit, man. It reminds me of my grandmother who said to me, when I was in standard 4, I should become a priest. I said, not a chance, grandmother. I'm not going to be living my life broke. Because I was looking at priests at the time and they were depending on donations from church. My father was in agriculture. I told you we carry pumpkins and give the priest. I thought, no way, I'm not getting food from congregants now. Sinners who are trying to get me to save them and now they feed me? No way. And she passed on in 1989. And now I'm looking at some of these priests. And I'm thinking, damn it, that old lady was on the money. I should have been a priest. Imagine me in a church this size. And I'm there calling God by all kinds of nicknames and endearments. I don't even know God likes these endearments. But yeah, you can picture me as a priest, right? I mean, I would rock this joint. I would convert all of you sinners and get you to give you a ticket to heaven, eh? No. Nomasonto, are you ready? I'm trying to talk about church here and you are not showing up. It shows you the... Pardon? Which video? We got a marketing video again? Gentlemen, you're telling me of a video I don't see here.
For centuries, the vast
I'm reading the script, it doesn't say video.
under the watchful eye of the various kings, queens,
Don't tell a media man to go off script while he's on stage, man.
to this day, Limpopo has 5 diverse
I'll kill the wrong person. Okay. I'm trying for stand-up comedy. I'm approaching retirement. I've got to try a career change. You wouldn't come to my show? Comrade Druza. He says he wouldn't come to my show. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Chief Executive Officer of Beacon Africa Tourism, Ms. Nomasonto Ndlovu. She's going to take us through the panel until just after 4:30. No, I can't keep rolling. I've gone over my tip. You're not giving me enough tip. Now, you take over. All right, you take over. Come on now. Your name is on the program as an active participant. I'm here as a mental case. No way.
Sanbonani, Thobela Lekai. Oh, okay. I don't know if I've lost my panel, but before we get going, I just would like to get my other one panel member who's joining us from the Republic of Johannesburg to be on screen at the moment. Can we just connect the one other member? I was told that you have to wait for the great. So I think we're going to have an exciting discussion this afternoon. If you can do me a favor, think of the questions that you would like to ask the panel as they gather. I think I have one more, I have the other member coming through the screen. So think of the questions that you would like us to answer. The reality is that we've had a whole day of discussion and everybody has sort of said everything that we wanted to say. So, Program Director, we are now going to be led by the audience in order for us to carry this panel discussion this afternoon. So just to get us going, let me greet all the honorables in the room. The Premier in absentia, I know that she wanted to be here with us, and I'm told that she is actually on her way. I want to greet the MECs in the province, all our leaders, the partners, the all-important would-be partners, the investors that are joining us, that are here in order to make sure that this province can be taken forward. So welcome to the tourism sector panel discussion at this 4th edition of the flagship event, the Limpopo Investment Conference. Our panel discussion this afternoon will be focusing on tourism as a catalyst for inclusive and sustainable economic growth. Inclusive and sustainable economic growth in the province. When I was younger, there was a poet, I think we might all know him. He used to do a poem, and I'm not a poet, so I'm going to try. He used to say, I am a stone. When thrown into the river, I make waves. Don't you all know this poem? Okay, maybe it was in my youth, but the catalyst, what we are talking about is how do we throw tourism into the water and it creates waves. So that is what I'm talking about when I talk about the catalyst for inclusive and sustainable economic growth in Limpopo. The great news is that the whole morning sessions, everybody that was here talked about tourism. In fact, we could have started this show by talking tourism because guess what? Agriculture, infrastructure, automotive, mining, you can name all sectors you want. They're all about tourism. Anybody agrees with me? Do you agree with me? Tourism people shout loudest because otherwise they'll never put us in this conference again. So our panelists, our panel actually will explore how tourism can be further developed as a driver of this inclusive economic growth I'm talking about. We're going to look at some of the opportunities, the challenges, because yes, there's always the good and the bad and the ugly maybe, and strategies for sustainable investment into this particular sector. Our panelists will discuss ways to harness the province's natural assets that we heard about all morning, enhance product development through community involvement, very important, and promote responsible tourism that creates a lasting benefits for all stakeholders. Now, somebody earlier talked about making Limpopo greatest again. I don't even use that word. I say, let's make Limpopo sexy again. So that is my thing this afternoon. So if you remember one thing, we're here, gathered here today to make sure that by the time we leave here, we know how to get Limpopo sexy again. And I know everybody knows what sexy means, so I'm very comfortable. Now, let me introduce my esteemed panel members. I've got here with me Mr. Jerry Mabena, joining us all the way from Johannesburg, the other republic. He is the CEO of Mutsamai Tourism Group. He is responsible for bringing to market the iconic Kruger Shalati and Kruger Station restaurant. Please Google it if you don't know it. The Sanctuary Mandela Hotel and Restaurant in Houghton, and the Kruger Untamed and Neisner Enchanted pop-up hotels. So this is a man of developing things all beautiful and lovely in the tourism sector. And he is currently working on an iconic, now listen to this, the Sky Walk at God's Window in Mpumalanga, just our neighbors here. The God's Window, we all know it. He is also the chairperson of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, the TBCSA, the industry body that is responsible for all the industry, the hotels and the big hospitality partners in the sector. And he also chairs the board of the School of Tourism and Hospitality at the University of Johannesburg, Mr. Jerry Mabena. I also have with me Miss, would I start with the lady? Miss Noki Meya. Noki is a general manager, commercial operations management at the Kruger National Park. No surprise, we have the Kruger at our panel, where she is leading and driving the Kruger National Park tourism and commercial operations strategy. She is responsible for policies and procedures in order to improve responsible operational standards, management, and revenue generation. I actually asked her to say, roughly, does the Sun Park still get money from government? And she says, through this program of making sure that they become a commercial operation, they now get quite a little amount, maybe less than 5% injection from government. So I like that from our people at Sun Park. So that's quite interesting. So Noki in the middle there with us. I also have Mr. Korombi Matibe, who we all know, I think. He is a chief director, biodiversity, economy, and sustainable use in the Department of Forestry and Fisheries and Environment. With various experience, and his career is spanning over 33 years, he has worked at the Freedom Park in Gauteng. He has worked at the Limpopo Tourism Agency. He has worked at the Gauteng Department of Agriculture, Environment and Land Affairs. He also was quite instrumental at the project Dinokeng that we now all know about. Mr. Korombi Matibe. Just wave, thank you. And I also have, last but not least, Mr. Tabelo Siala, MD and Executive Chairman of Shekinah Lion and Game Lodge. He is a serial entrepreneur with over 24 years in management and consulting, building companies from scratch. So he really is somebody who is very interesting to have around us here today, owning a product in Limpopo. He has worked across sectors in construction, mining, finance, ICT, public sector, as well as hospitality. Now, what I can also tell you about this man is that he actually was one of the investors at this conference in the few years ago, and he put a pledge, and he will tell us all about, because we talk about real stories. We're not talking theory here. I'm not a lecturer. I'm not a professor, so I'm talking real stories here. So we will hear a lot from him about what does it mean to be an investor in tourism in this province. So to get going, let's maybe highlight what's happening in Limpopo in terms of the competitive advantage. I don't need to get into it because you heard all about it this morning, the videos, the premier, the MEC, everybody spoke about it, that this place has got the biodiversity and the natural beauty, that there is cultural heritage. We also have historical sites, and not just any historical sites. So because the province is hosting archaeological sites like Mapungubwe, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Just a stone throw away from yet another World Heritage Site called, who knows it? What's the nearest World Heritage Site to Mapungubwe? Audience. Nobody knows it. Google it quickly. There's a prize. Shekinah is going to give you something. They don't know it. Okay, so the holiday at Shekinah is now gone, but I'm talking about Victoria Falls. So we are not just having this UNESCO World Heritage Site here, but our neighbors, and you will know why, they also have a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO site in Zimbabwe. We are also famous and known for adventure and ecotourism. So you know when you come here, there's a diverse outdoor activities. You can hike, you can watch the birds, you can go game driving, you can just do all things nature and adventure in this province. What's exciting as well is that in this province, they then developed the Limpopo tourism strategy, and then they aligned in terms of their focus areas with this, what I've just mentioned as the competitive areas. So they focus on what they call mega conservation, safari and game conferencing, and golf and game, as well as family and recreation, and also special interest. Now, tourism, what we know as well is that it lives both in domestic as well in international market. We cannot be in isolation, we cannot be in an island. We live, we attract domestic, we attract the international market. So I'm going to explore a little bit about the global tourism investment trends. Now, the global tourism FDI inflows, they increased by 30% from 2022 to 2023. That tells us something. This is based on the FDI markets data. It showed us that the jobs they were created as well in this particular period. Now, the sub-sectors that interest investors within the space in terms of this FDI CAPEX report, it was mainly accommodation at 72%, amusement and theme parks at 7%, performing arts and spectator sports as well as related at 6%, gambling industries 3%. So you can see where the interest of tourism investment is. It is mainly in accommodation. We'll explore that. The key drivers for tourism investment, as per this particular report, is one, proximity to markets and customers. This rates very high at 58%. Domestic market growth, skilled workforce availability, regulatory environment, technology and innovation, the industry cluster, transport and infrastructure that we spoke about this morning is a key enabler, government support, which is important that the Premier, they've called us today to talk about the government being interested in attracting tourism investment and investment in general into the province. But another tourism investment driver that's important, according to this FDI report, is universities and research hubs, as well as the quality of life. In the morning, the Premier really educated us about the people of Limpopo and how special they are and how proud they are. So we can always assume that the quality of life in this province is also at a high level. Now, when I looked then at how has tourism been performing, because when you're going to invest, you're probably going to want to ask us here, how is tourism performing. So as at September 2024, in South Africa, we received 6.5 million arrivals, which was a 6.5% growth compared to 2023. Now, within this number, listen to this, 4.7 million arrivals was from Africa land arrivals. Africa land arrivals. So they didn't fly, they were on land. So this is how much? 4.7 million people of 6.5 million. So you can already work out that this is almost what? 72% of people coming into South Africa, the majority of them is land and Africa. Now, the critical thing here is that of that, now, because I want to drive to a conversation that we had earlier on about our proximity to the African continent and us being the gateway into Africa. Now, of these people that came to South Africa, 72% from the continent, over 60% from land markets were actually from Zimbabwe, Mozambique, Lesotho, and Botswana. Why is this important? Okay, park the thought. Another interesting fact, Limpopo is number 6 on the international arrivals in terms of when you look after Gauteng, Mpumalanga, Western Cape, KZN, Free State, and then comes Limpopo. So we're number 6 on international arrivals, even though we're number 5 on spend. International tourism in South Africa generated 19.9 billion in terms of total foreign direct spend. So when they came here, how much they spent came to 19.9 billion. That's quite an amount. And there was a 13.5% growth from last year. Now the next question you want to know, when they came here, what did they spend on? What did they spend their money on? Because remember now, you're trying to invest. What should you invest on? What are they looking for? So they came to do personal shopping. They came and they spent on food and beverages. They spent on accommodation. They had to sleep, fortunately or unfortunately. They came for business shopping. They came for leisure. They came for medical tourism. They came for MICE, meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. Now, what are the top attractions in Limpopo? I had to check this one out because I had forgotten since I left here. The Kruger National Park is the number 1 in the top 10. They are the number 1 attraction for Limpopo. No surprise because we have the bulk of the Kruger in this province. Mapungube National Park, Bila Conservancy, but interestingly enough, I want you to think about this because this was never here. When I used to work here, this wasn't there. Nandoni Dam is now within the top 10 attractions in Limpopo being visited by international tourists. So I've given you a little bit of some background into tourism so you get a feel of what's going on. Now, the question that the Premier asked in the morning, that she said she was inspired by the President to ask this question, because this is a mystery, is what is holding us back? With all this rich stuff that we have, what is holding us back? And I want the panel in their thought today and as they discuss to actually be able to be thinking around those things. So I'm coming now to my panel. I'm going to ask Mr. Jerry Mabena. Jerry, the question I want to ask you is